2020 TBR7, almost a year later, 2,500 miles. Hard to believe, it's really gone fast. And for the most part, it's been a pretty good, reliable bike. Long as you put it in perspective for what it is. It's a Chinese made, a little bit underpowered. Suspension is really flimsy. But if you use the bike accordingly, I think it's pretty good, especially for 1,300 bucks delivered to your house. So I did a video here, it's a little less than a year ago, about my mods, but really quick, I'm gonna go in there and show you some of the things that I've done. So I really like the Pro Taper bars, and you can get this kit off Amazon for about 20 bucks. The oversized kit seems to do a really good job. And it's kind of a nice touch, a little bit stronger bars. Definitely a lot stronger than the real flimsy ones that come on the bike. Like a lot of you, I did the Carb Mod. This is just an aftermarket Mikuni, and I think I've got a 110 jet in there right now. I live at sea level, maybe a little bit more. Seems to do a good job. NJK spark plug and spark plug cap. Probably not necessary, but they seem to do pretty good for what it is. The battery has been modified. I think it's the Mighty Max, like a lot of you use in there. Stock battery, I think it went out in about 2 months. So definitely necessary. The tires, I've put heavy duty tubes in both of them. And I'm running about, on the street I run 25 to 30 pounds. And that seems to be working pretty good. Haven't had no flats. I didn't have no problem with the stock ones, but didn't want to take a chance. I upgraded to a heavy duty chain. It's still 428. It's a non-O-ring, so, and it seems to do the job pretty well. A lot of them go with the O-rings, and I guess people are having trouble with it fitting around the chain guide up around the sprocket area. So that kind of alleviated a lot of that. And as far as the exhaust, the only thing I did, I took it off, and there's a little screen in there, took that off, and opened it up a little bit. It sounds pretty good now. So, what in the last year has happened? Well, basically, let's back up a little bit. The motor, after about 100 miles, seemed like it was losing power. I went and checked the valves, and they're way out of spec. Cold, they should be about 3 thousandths for the exhaust and intake, and they were about 1,000ths or even less. So it had a tendency, it was kind of floating, wouldn't rev up as high. After I did that, it seemed like it put out another couple horsepower. So if you're having trouble, if it seems like it's not idling as well, it's taking more choke, definitely check the valve adjustment. I've actually done it twice in this bike. The last time it was out, but not nearly as much as it was the first. And almost bet all of them have a tendency to tighten up. So it's something that's really critical to do, I would say, in the first 100, 200 miles. And of course the oil that comes in these, I don't really trust. Just about everybody changes it, you know. I run a good 1540 diesel oil. The Rotella seems to work pretty good. You know, pretty much use what you want. 1040, anything like that. If you want to use the motorcycle oil, it's fine, but you're going to definitely pay a little bit more. Actually, I haven't had much trouble with anything else. The bike has been pretty good. I try not to push it too much. You're not going to keep up with your buddy on his KTM dual sport. There's no way. But if you take the bike for what it is, it seems to do a pretty good job. When I go dual sporting, it's usually mild trails, log roads. I don't push it too much. And it seemed to go right along. The motor never failed to start. Electric start has always worked really well on it. The brakes are doing really good. I guess I've heard some people have been having issues with the chain guide. I'm still running the stock chain guide after 2,500 miles. There's a lot of meat left on it. But I think having the alignment is really critical on these. And another thing is checking your spoke tension. I've heard there's a lot of people have destroyed the back rims on these. Well, you let your spokes go out of true, that's going to happen. Or if you don't check the torque on them. it's really critical. These are super soft rims. The quality of the spokes is not very good, so it's really, really critical to check these maybe every other ride, every third ride. I've noticed as it's got more time, there's less and less of them loosening up, but there's still a tendency to do that. Stock plastics holding up well. I haven't, I've had a couple small tip overs, mainly my fault playing around. That seemed to do it pretty well. The bike, with me on it, I'm 240 pounds. It realistically flat without wind is about 70. I can cruise 60 pretty comfortable. Downhill I can probably hit 75, so that's not too bad. I'm pretty impressed with the motor. It really uses no oil. Like I said, it never fails to start, and it's proved to be really reliable. I think the things that hold this bike back more than anything are probably the suspension, and the motor is just a little underpowered. These forks are really spindly. Compared to a Yamaha or Honda, they're probably about half the diameter. One mod I did on the forks, I took them off, I changed the oil, I put a 20 weight heavier oil in there, slowed the dampening rate down, and it helps the bottoming characteristics a little bit. The rear shock has virtually no dampening. I mean, there's a little bit in there. I've heard of people blowing these. Well, if you ride it on a motocross track or, run it to its limit and pass, you're going to probably blow the rear shock. The swing arm on here, pretty flimsy. It's just a box steel. It's not that thick. I've heard of some people having some issues with these. My brake pads are still good. Kind of easy on the brakes. It's a heavy bike. It's probably around 270 with gas, maybe 280 pounds ready to go. So you just got to treat it accordingly. It takes a little bit longer to get it to slow down. Not the best brakes, but they're adequate. They do the job. Anyway, that's about it. 2,500 miles. Just a couple minor little things. The bike always runs well. I would say it's a good deal if you realize what it is and don't try to beat the hell out of it. It'll last you pretty good.